Hello and welcome to TGIK, live from the Heptio studios. I feel like I have to punch the air every time we start TGIK. How's everybody doing today? Let's see if the mountain's out. My favorite part of today. I don't know, the blinds are down. I looked earlier, I couldn't see Charlie, but maybe he's joining us today from behind the blinds. Okay, so, oh man, there's already a lot going on in chat. Let's say hi to our friends, my favorite part of the week. So Olav was our first one to join. Happy TGIK, it's Friday from Denmark. Hi Olav, how are you doing? Bob says, greetings from sunny and clear Hollywood, California. That sounds nice. It's been really nice up here in Seattle. Like, it was like actually sunny today, and I didn't have to wear a coat for the first time in like 2 months. So like, I think a lot of people are getting sunshine, and it's greatly appreciated. Sean Smith, hello everyone from Seattle. Lamatti, happy Friday, everyone. Looking forward to this one. I'm actually looking forward to this one, too. Jenkins X, like, the more I started playing with it yesterday, the more I was like, oh, I really don't even have to prep. So we're actually going to do a lot of TGIK today on the fly, so that's going to be exciting, but more on that in a little bit. Heptio says, hi, everyone. This is George. I'll be helping Kris out with the stream today. We'll get started in about 13 minutes. Thanks for joining, George, and thanks for your help. Sean says this one isn't so much in the wheelhouse as we're moving away from Jenkins, but I miss TGIK. So don't be confused. Just because this is called Jenkins X doesn't necessarily imply that this is going to be all about Jenkins today. In fact, we're probably going to spend more time talking about Java and Kubernetes and other programming languages than we're actually going to look at Jenkins or talk about Jenkins. So like maybe Jenkins X could have a slightly better name for what the tool actually does. Okay, so let's see, George said, or actually Philip, hello from Germany, and then George says, welcome to the show, everyone. As usual, we have the notes available here, so there's a HackMD if folks want to take notes or ask questions or share links or anything, that's a good place to do it as well. George says if you want to dive into the notes, you can help us out, and we're getting started in a few minutes. Okay, and then I joined, and Duffy says hello. Hi, Duffy, good to see you. And I think Duffy is going to be doing a few TGIKs moving forward. I'm going to be out at FOSDEM next week, and then I have a couple surgeries, so I'm going to miss a few weeks. And I think Duffy and Joe are going to be nice enough to help us out. So stay tuned, for more Duffy and more Joe, which that's what everybody wants, let's be honest. So Mohammed says hello. Mike says hi all. Rory, evening from I can't even say this, Laco-Heliad? No idea where that is. Rory, where on earth are you from? But thank you for joining. I always love seeing people from new places because I always like, oh, I've never heard of this. Let me go Google it after the show and see if there's mountains there. Happy Friday from Toronto. Good to see you. Ayo from Chicago. I feel like I get that from Brandon every once in a while. Hi from London. It's 7 Chicago. Kill me. Aw. Hello, aus Berlin. Good evening from Frankfurt. Hello from New York City. Hello from Brazil. Hi from Dusseldorf, Germany. Hi from Istanbul. So we have more people from out of the United States than in the United States. This is really exciting. Waleed, hello from Eastern Province in Saudi. Okay, here we have a United Stateser. Hello from San Francisco. San Francisco, I heard the weather's been also equally as nice there. Hello from London, and looking forward to the talk today from our friend Aaron. Okay, so yeah, that's what we got going on. Let's jump over to my screen. Oh wait, Duffy says something. So hit up github.com/heptiotgik issues for ideas for shows. Okay, yeah, let's actually take a look at that. Let me open this up here and switch over to my screen. Bam, and let me move this up here and do like my magic hotkeys that I showed people about last time. So we have an issue tracker. And if you have an idea for an episode, you can come in, you can do episode idea and then like put like what you think it would be exciting for us to talk about. More people are saying things. Rory says, Laco-Heliad is in the Scottish Highlands. We do have mountains. Oh, awesome. Okay, see, this is why I like figuring out where people are from. My name is Mahamud, not Mohammed. I'm really sorry about that. I am really bad at mispronouncing names, but I know how important it is because people mispronounce things about me every so often, and I'll try to get that correct. Hello, Roy. It is Victor, your colleague. Oh, cool. So there's 2 people on TGIK at the same time who work together. That's exciting. Okay, so Dan Bentley, one of our friends, has this really cool program called Tilt, and he came in and he said, episode idea Tilt, and it just says like kind of what it does, and there's a link to the GitHub page or whatever. So the more info you can give us here about like what the tool is, or maybe like a specific feature or a set of features that like gets you and your organization excited, is good to add to these issues. So like the more you can share, the better. And we actually do come through. I make it a point to like go through all of these, or like skim through them all at least, like as I'm picking out my TGIK for the week. And that's actually how I came to Jenkins X. I think it was on page 3. Let's see if I can find it. We can do a search for it. Jenkins. Okay, so I came in and I was like, whoa, this has 5 thumbs ups. Most of them have like 1 or 2. And I was like, what's going on here? No description provided, which I think most people would have just been like meeps and not checked it out. But naturally, my attention was caught. And so I just typed Jenkins X into Google. This was the first hit. And like started reading, and then like within the first 5 minutes was like, oh, somebody actually built this tool that I've been daydreaming about for the past year, and it's already done and has like 2,000 GitHub stars, and it's amazing. So we're going to learn about Jenkins X today. So Rory says, newbie cyber, hi Victor. Lamati says, anyway, do we do a live Q&A TGIK? That would be super cool. Yeah, I feel like today Jenkins X like works so well, and there's so much to show that it's going to be hard to like get everything jam-packed into one episode. So if folks want to do a live Q&A today, feel free to dump questions. I can like start a queue, or we can add the questions to the HackMD. Actually, let's do that. Add the questions to the HackMD, and I will do my best to answer them if anybody just has any random questions. And Felipe, hello from Paris. Good. I'm glad all these people are joining us. Always exciting. So anyway, let's go back to our HackMD here. Let me scroll up and get the link out of chat. Bam. And bam. Okay, so we like to do the split view. So does anybody ever actually do this view? I'm like a big fan of the halvesies, so you get like the live rendering. But anyway, if you want to come in, you know how to write Markdown. It's pretty easy. There's an example of things over here on the left. And look, we have a note here, incoming questions, add your questions here. So that would show up over here. Also, here under things to create, let me explain this little section really quick, because this is going to take some time for folks if they want to start Googling things. So like I said, Jenkins X is a big tool. It basically helps you create commonly used operational services for Kubernetes and around Kubernetes. And here is a very short list of everything that you can possibly create with Jenkins X. I was going to do the Spring app because that's just a basic web server that serves a little bit of HTML. But it looks like there's like Terraform, and there's a Docker one, and like Etsy hosts, and there's a Git one. And I thought I even saw like there was a different, I thought there was like a monitoring one somewhere in here. I might be missing it. But you can even make a Jenkins itself. But if anybody wants to see us make any of these, they only take about 5 minutes to run, so I'm happy to run any of these commands once we start getting into Jenkins X more in detail. But if you want to do some research now, that's why I put that list there. Okay, so let's start with this week in Kubernetes. So this week, our friend Henning Jacobs, so he works over in Berlin at Zalando. He's been a long, long time SIG AWS contributor. I think he was there like when I first started, like over 2 years ago, and he's been continually hanging out and contributing to Kubernetes on Amazon. So if you don't know who he is, he's done a lot of work, and a lot of the stuff Zalando has built has been really successful. Like the DNS project that came out of the Kubernetes incubator was done by a lot of the Zalando folks. Anyway, he's collecting failure stories for Kubernetes. Oh, this is good. This would go really good in my cluster bleep talk. Hold on, I think Joe's bringing me a beer. Yeah?
All right, I got some beer for you.
Nice.
They didn't have the Bud Light with lime.
Oh, it's okay.
But I got...
Just regular Bud Light. Here, do you want to tell people hi?
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Yep.
There we go.
Yay.
Just regular Bud. And they didn't even have lime, so I was going to get lime so I could make Bud Light with lime.
Like, just like shake it up and make it.
Yeah, there we go.
No, thank you. Yay. I was like, Joe, go give me a Bud Light lime. And then he went and got me one because he loves me. It's really rad. Okay, so anyway, I'm actually going to have a beer today. I'm excited. And this is for our friends at the advocacy team. So there's an existing advocacy team here at Vmware, and I got to join like their like top secret advocacy chat, and one of them was like, hey, I'm going to go get a beer. So this is like my way of cheersing to you and saying thanks for all your hard work, and I'm really excited about doing a little bit of Friday afternoon drinking with you. And Duffy says hi to Joe, and let's see, other people have said some stuff as well. Lamati says, happy Friday, Joe. Aaron says, hello to Joe. Yeah, and Joe just is like sitting out there actually doing work and working hard, so I get to kind of goof off in here, and it's a lot of fun. Miguel says, hi from Talon. Philippe says, hello, boss. Sean says, cheers. Yeah, you guys should all, or you folks should all like send Joe a message and be like, thanks for the beer, and just bother him really quick, because that would be fun. Okay, so anyway, back to Henning's thing. So he's got Kubernetes failure stories. So like I said, this would be really good for my cluster bleep talk, but this is like ways that people have goofed up Kubernetes, which I have a whole talk about this that is like, hey, it's okay, you're not alone. It's very common for people to like goof up. Even me, myself, like even the stuff we do on TGIK, we still like make mistakes and stuff is confusing and we still get stuff wrong. So like learning how to forgive yourself and having some empathy for yourself as you're moving through Kubernetes and Cloud Native is like super important. So these are good case studies you can come and read. One of the things that we've learned in my mountaineering school that I've been going to is the importance of reading case studies and learning from our past, and that's how like avalanche and snow science has come to be, is by learning about these other tragedies that have happened along the way and trying not to make those same mistakes yourself. So we can apply some of that knowledge here to Cloud Native. So come check these out. This is really cool. And he's done some stuff like this before. Like he's collected like Kubernetes on AWS users, or like we have like an AWS therapy doc where people just talk about all the things on Amazon that they've like gotten in trouble with. Let's see, Vladimir says hello from Kyiv. I think Sean said cheers. I'm not sure if I already said that or not. But anyway, that is the failure stories for Kubernetes. Okay, so next up we have another Heptio training, which is interesting because we're Vmware now. Oh, and it's called Vmware Kubernetes Academy. So we did change the name. But this is in San Francisco. So any of our Bay Area homies, I think I'm not going to be able to make this one because this is the day after one of my surgeries. But moving forward, I usually make it a point to try to attend these and give some sort of session and like hang out with folks and ask questions. And we're going to have some experts there who do a lot of our trainings for us. So anytime you see like a training at like KubeCon, or we've done some at some of the O'Reilly conferences like Velocity and OSCON, these are the same folks who are going to be here. So if you're interested or you think your org might benefit from learning about Kubernetes from folks here at Heptio, this is a thing you can go and check out. Friend of the show, Arun Gupta, now has a talk on how do you say this? Kuberneticize your Java app. Let's check this out. So Arun, he's another longtime SIG AWSer. He came in a little bit after me and Henning, and he works at Amazon, and he joined up Amazon in almost, like, I think the first week that he announced he was at Amazon, we saw him in the SIG AWS channels, and that was like one of the first times we started to like actually get folks from Amazon interested in Kubernetes and joining the SIG. So he was like one of the like OGs of Amazon actually joining SIG AWS, which was really exciting. Anyway, he's done a ton of work in Java, which we're going to be looking at a little bit of Java today. But if you want to come and figure out how to Kubernetes, I don't even know if I can say this, Kuberneticize your Java app, this looks like it's a good video that goes through some of the pros and cons and do's and don'ts. In general, like I won't go super deep down the rabbit hole, but in general, the JVM in a container is just trickier than like say a static binary. So I have a feeling some of those concerns are going to be expressed in this video. So also come check that out. Cubectal Warp, Starship not included. Let's see. Sorry, I just got a text from someone. Introducing Cubectal Warp, live developed code in Kubernetes. Oh, this is cool. So this solves the problem of like, how do I run my code in Kubernetes while still like developing quickly on my local workstation, which this has been a problem in Kubernetes since day one. And some of the deployment tools like Draft were sort of put together to sort of be like a workaround for this, but it looks like we finally have a solid way of actually like executing my local code directly in Kubernetes or on Kubernetes, which that's like a whole other discussion. And I'm looking at writing another book, and one of the hardest problems is, do I say in Kubernetes or on Kubernetes or with Kubernetes? So I just like started paying attention to like the words that people use when they're describing about building services around Kubernetes. Heptio. Let's see. Oh, folks are saying something. Sean says, oh, maybe I should work with someone on my team to add their story of how the root CA got expired to 1 year later. That would be cool. I love a good security exploit. Marco says, hello. Hello, Marco. Good to see you. Let's see. Aaron, can we get a link to the Markdown document added to the video description, please? Let's see. Murad says, I have to leave and get a beer now because Kris shouldn't be drinking alone. Well, to be fair, I haven't even had a drink yet. It was just mostly for like I wanted to show our friends in the advocacy channel that they weren't alone. Let's see. But yeah, please join me. Sounds like a good idea today. Heptio says, Aaron done. Flamati says, is that because the startup time, dependency size, or something else? Just curious why Java in the VM is a problem. Okay, so it's not necessarily a problem. There's just like things that you have to worry about. The first one is the version of Java that you're using. If you're using a version of Java before Java 11, I want to say, the way that the JVM interacts with the kernel, or rather doesn't interact with the kernel, it sort of makes it hard for you to define things like memory limits. So you can actually like bloat out of a container, to use words. To describe that, I don't know, like I guess bloat is the right word, but like your application could consume more memory than the container allotted because the container runtime was telling the kernel to do one thing and the JVM wasn't listening to it. And memory is just another thing that you have to concern yourself with. The way that the JVM works is you define like a concrete set of memory. Like I want to set aside 10 gigs of memory for my app, and you have to like match that up to the container. And if you take up more memory, your pod could get out of memory or killed. And I was helping one of my partners deal with some killing for some Spark stuff that we were working on the other night. And that's actually pretty hard to detect in Kubernetes because it happens so fast. So you just get a pod and then randomly the pod's gone and you don't know what happened. So memory with JVM is just a little tricky in Kubernetes because we try to do memory declaratively through like the pod definition, but the JVM sort of works a little bit differently. Okay, so that's like my Java spiel. Okay, so Lamati says, is that because of startup time? Okay, we already read that. And Aaron says, Heptio, thank you. Okay, rad. So anyway, Kubectl Warp. I really kind of want to try this now. Is it like, okay, so it's its own thing. Is it like a Kubectl plugin? Yeah, okay, cool. So Kubectl has a way for you to define arbitrary plugins. So you can create like your own like secondary word to Kubectl. Like you could do Kubectl, whatever word you want, and then you could actually define a plugin and you can start to build cool things out, which is where this totally came from. So I kind of want to like get this up and running, like not today because we got to spend some time on Jenkins X, but like maybe this is something that I can like sneak into a future video or something because this looks really cool. Okay, so let's go back to our Markdown and let's close some of the stuff up here. I'm a tab closer. Is anybody else here a tab closer? I see some people who just have like a million tabs and they keep starting new tabs and leave the other ones open, but like that gives me tab anxiety. So like I always like to have just like the one I'm looking at and maybe like a handful of others. Murad says, oh my god, Kubectl. Yeah, that's how I say it. I've been saying it like that for a long time, and it doesn't even sound weird to me anymore. That's just what I say. So let's see, where were we over here? Earlier bird pricing, we looked at that. The word I can't pronounce, your Java app, Kubectl Warp. Quiet week of releases, Minikube, new version of Minikube is out. Kubernetes 1.12.5 point releases, and Knative, Kate's pipeline CRD. What is this thing? But yeah, if you want to check out the Kubernetes or Minikube releases, go for it. We've gone over in the past where the changelogs are, but if anybody wants me to dig deeper into Minikube or Kubernetes 1.12.5 here, just drop it in chat and I'll open up the changelog. Okay, let's see what folks are saying. Sean says, I clone tabs like once every 5 days. Leonardo, hi from Brazil. Lamati, tab anxiety is the phrase of the month. I mean, asterisk anxiety is the phrase of the month. Marco says, kill tabs with fire. Yeah, I'm a tab closer. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, first sip of Bud Light. Let's do this. Okay, cool. So Knative now has a build pipeline. Interesting. I want to come check this out now that I've already kind of played with Jenkins X, but a lot of what we're going to be doing today is going to be building out a pipeline as well. This is just like the Knative version of it. And Joe did a really great episode on Knative, and I know he went into a lot of the different tools that they have here, so maybe we can convince Joe while I'm out next month to do like a Knative build pipeline, something or other. Or maybe Duffy could help out with that as well, but this one looks really exciting. So thanks for sharing that. So George puts these together for me every week. Well, if I'm lucky, he does. Sometimes I do it. And then so like I just come through and I don't really know any of these until like runtime, and it's just like, okay, what do we have this week? Okay, any questions here? No questions. Okay, reference links. Let's go through some of these so folks can get an idea of what we're going to be looking at today. Ole says, greetings from Sweden. Excited to join live. Okay, cool. My name is Olav. I'm a tab addict. Okay. I kind of want to tweet now. Like, are you a tab person or not a tab person? I should do that after the show. Okay, so anyway. Jenkins X on Jenkins. So this first one is, this is like, if you Google Jenkins X, this is where you're going to end up. So this is like the first landing page. Norman says, does Jenkins X support AWS code commit? I seem to remember from the Berlin KubeCon presentation it was not supported. I'm not sure, Norman, but we can look once we start exploring the CLI tool. And then we're actually going to look at another live demo, well, 2 more live demos I have links to in the the hackmd file here. So maybe one of those two will answer that question as well. And I don't think we have anybody from the Jenkins, the Jenkins X org live today, but if anybody has worked on this project, you should pat yourself on the back. As I've been looking at the Go code, and like you can ask the folks I sit with here at the office, like this is probably my new favorite Go code base. It is gorgeous, and we're gonna look at it a little bit deeper in a second. Okay, more folks are saying things. So Roy says JVM 8 and below does ergonomics, memory fork, pull join, etc. based on the host resources, not the container itself. Oracle added some container support in 9, improved it in further 10 and 11. Okay, so Roy's got the versions you need to concern yourself with. So yeah, basically it's just the way that the JVM manages memory can get you into trouble. Okay. Automated Ci Icd, so that's the first big thing that caught my attention when I was looking at Jenkins X, was like, oh, cool, so it's gonna like help us automate stuff, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense because Jenkins. Applications, environments, and promotion. So at first I kind of just breezed past this, but now what I realize is applications implies Jenkins X's ability to like stub out an app for you. Like it gets everything stubbed out. Like even the details you don't think one of these tools should create, Jenkins X is going to do it for us. And we're going to look at building one here in a second. Environments. So we're going to look at the 2 default environments, but you can also define your own, which is staging and production. So you're actually able to like run something in staging, get it up and running, look at it, interact with it, and then you can do a promotion, which is going to like cut it over to the secondary system that is pretty much apples to apples with your staging environment. And it sets all that stuff up for you. It's really cool. Okay, so let's see what other folks are saying. Aaron says it's the C group specifically, not necessarily anything related to containers directly, I believe. Okay, yeah, so we're getting a little bit deeper in what's going on. But yeah, with C groups, I think you're supposed to be able to define the memory, and if the JVM isn't listening to that when you're running it using C groups and kernel namespaces, that's where that problem's coming from. So Aaron says old versions of Java ignore the C group limit and only look at the host limits. Yeah, so saying the same thing there. Okay, cool. Pull request preview environments. Okay, so this is really exciting. So with Jenkins X, you can actually preview somebody's PR live. So you're actually able to go in and say like, oh, you want to make this change to this web service or this app or whatever. And then you can go and you can actually like use this automated pipeline to go and like get your hands on and look at it and run it and feel it and see what it's going to look like. Feedback on issues and pull requests. So yeah, Jenkins X interacts with GitHub heavily, and you can like create automatic issues and stuff, like if something goes wrong in your build pipeline along the way. And we're gonna sort of look at this like workflow and look at some of these tutorials, but these are like the big hitters for Jenkins X out of the box. What this doesn't tell you is that it does everything for you. It just manages everything for you. So like the way I've been pitching Jenkins X to a lot of folks as I've been talking to them is like, it's like the one tool to rule them all. Like you can create a Kubernetes cluster, deploy a pipeline, create an app, create a GitHub repo, push the app to a GitHub repo, open up a pull request, merge to production, build a container, run that container in Kubernetes, and you can do all of that using one command line tool. So that's really exciting for anybody who is like me, who touches like 6 or 7 different pieces as they're going from a main function to a deployment in Kubernetes. Let's see what folks are saying. Lamati says, Roy and Aaron, is the solution to define upper memory bounds on the CLI and adjust your Kubernetes memory default limits accordingly? I think that's one solution that a lot of folks have talked about. There's somebody who wrote a really good blog about this from Docker. Let's see if we can find this really quick. Docker, Java, let's do containers, blog. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, so yeah, we should add this to the docs. This is a really good definition of how Docker interacts with it, which I think is going to give you some visibility into what Kubernetes is going to do. And this talks about allocated memory and like what's actually happening. So this is a really good resource if you're actually concerned with this. So let's do a reference link, and we'll do, well, no, close. Wait, do I have to sign in order to edit this? Yeah, I do. Sign in via GitHub. Okay, cool. So Docker blog on JVM and containers. And then our link, if folks want to come check that out. And then I'll delete that new line. Okay, cool. So let's close this because tab anxiety, and let's go back here. All right, so next up is Jenkins X Documentation. So this is like the GitHub.io page that I think is stored in the repository, and this is where a lot of the stuff we're going to be looking at today came from. Specifically, this video here. This is one of the highest quality demo videos I've seen online. In fact, it's so high quality, I just want to show you a little bit of what it's like. I don't know if you can hear this or not. His voice is very soothing. It's a very good video. It fast forwards where it needs to fast forward, and it just shows you very concretely exactly what you can and can't do with this tool, and goes through a beginning, middle, and an end, similar to what we're going to be doing today. So long that we do a Spring Boot app, which is the same thing he did here. But if somebody wants to see the Terraform plane or something, we can do that as well. So let's see. Lamati says, thanks, Kris, looking that up. I'm going to try to pronounce your name correctly. Mahmoud says, if you don't set XMX case limits, it will be ignored by JVM unless you use Java 11 or plus and get some new Java 8 experimental flags plus unlock environmental VM options. I love how we're still talking about Java, the JVM, and Kubernetes. It makes me happy. Okay, so really good video. If you want to come put this on 2 times the speed, so it'll take about 5 minutes to watch, and it'll give you end-to-end what we're going to be kind of doing today. So next, we have this. Oh, this is a link to the actual YouTube. I pulled the link out of this video here that I just showed you. So if you just want to go straight to the YouTube, you can go there. Okay, so non-Cloud Shell quick start docs. Let's actually go and let's look at this. So if you come up here to the top on the documentation site, you come over here to the left under getting started, and you're like, oh, there's tutorials. And you're like, oh, rad, this is really cool. Let's go do one of these. The problem is you can, well, it's not a problem. It's a feature. But they want you to do it in Google Cloud Show. And I was just like, well, I want to do everything live on my terminal, because that's how I like to do things on TGIK and show folks what it's like actually running on a MacBook. So I was like, OK, we're going to have to find a different tutorial to go through that doesn't use the Google Cloud Shell. So I'm trying to think how I found it. I want to say the quick start command, maybe? I don't know. I clicked through a bunch and was able to ultimately get to this tutorial here. So we'll need to keep this one open. So this is one for the quick start, and this is one for Spring Boot, which I think we should do because that's just a really simple application and it runs in the JVM. So we can look at some of this Java stuff as we're doing this. So yeah, and then you can come over here on the left and you can see there's some more of these developing guides. So maybe that's how you get here. But anyway, if you want to actually do a Spring Boot app without running in Google Cloud Shell, this is the tutorial for that. And let me grab some gummy bears really quick before we get started. Oh, really quick poll. Who here is a sour gummy bear fan? Sour gummy bears or regular gummy bears? So I'm definitely a sour kind of girl. Waiting for people to answer my gummy bear question while I eat my gummy bears. Lamati +1. Sour. Heptio sour. Okay, so George likes sour. Sour gummy bears are the best. +1 for all the gummy bears. I got addicted to gummy bears while mountain climbing because I need lots of sugar while climbing, and now I just eat them all the time. And it's really bad for me, but whatever. Okay, so create a Spring Boot app. So this goes through and it's like, okay, do JX create. But you have to install the JX command line tool first. So I think we should do that. Let's start with getting the JX command line tool up and running. Then let's actually create a Kubernetes cluster using the JX command line tool. Then after we have Kubernetes, let's create a pipeline. Then let's create an app. Then let's deploy the app. I think that sounds like a nice all-inclusive thing to do with Jenkins X. So if you go to github.com, GitHub Jenkins X. Let's see if we can find it. /Jenkins X. There's actually, it's not the Jenkins org, it's a new org called Jenkins X. And you can see here you have the doc site and the JX tool itself. So let's actually add this to the reference notes. Do GitHub repo. Cool. Where were we? here. So this is really funny. There's been 1,176 releases of JX, and that's kind of fitting if you think about it, considering the whole point of this program is to help automate a build pipeline. It's probably relatively inexpensive for them to cut a release using Jenkins X. So if this says anything about how well the program works, I think the fact that they have over 1,000 releases is telling. In fact, they're probably cutting a release for every commit or something. I bet if we go in here and we look, 5,000 commits, so maybe like multiple commits per PR, and every PR we get a new release, which would be really cool. And that says something about the ability to iterate quickly with this tool. Okay, so anyway, you come here to releases, grab the latest release. I downloaded the one for Darwin, so I grabbed this tarball here. And then you just untar it, and then the binary is just right there. Which is another good question I want to ask folks. When you untar something, do you expect there to be a directory, or do you expect it just to be the binary if you're downloading a binary like this? I'm a big directory fan, and I always try to CD into a binary after this happens. But anyway, tar xcf, downloads, wasn't it called Jenkins X? What was this thing called? JX Darwin. JX Darwin, and then you can just move the JX tool here to use your local bin, which I already did all this. So after you do that, I just Control-C out of there. I didn't actually do it. After you do that, you should be able to run JX. And after you run it, you'll notice you get this lovely color-coded output, and you can start to see how complex this tool really is. There's a lot of stuff going on here. There's a ton of create commands. There's a ton of git commands, and there's even these environments and like logs, and you can like access in your application and SSH into it. And even open up a console. So there's a lot to go over here for the tool, but I think what we said about just like building an app and getting it up and running should be good. Let's see what folks are saying in chat. +1 for gummy bears. I hope the silence means we all agree that the answer is a directory, of course. I think it has to be a directory. Like, I don't know. I kind of want to open up a PR that like changes the build pipeline to like create a new directory that you can CD into and like merge that into Jenkins X. But like whatever, that's just like the small things in life that make me happy. Rory says, I like there to be a directory, otherwise it makes a mess of my downloads dir. Totally agree. Okay, so anyway, JX is here. So to create a Kubernetes cluster using JX, let's see if we can find the docs on this. Getting started, create new cluster. This is like super easy, but really exciting. You can use Cloud Shell or this command here. And we're actually going to build this command live so we can actually see how cool this is. So you can do JX create cluster -h for help. So this is where you start to realize how built this tool really is. So like Kubicorn, for instance, doesn't even do all of this, and that's a tool designed specifically to install Kubernetes. Now granted, they're installing Kubernetes using services like AKS, which is managed Kubernetes, so they're not actually provisioning any infrastructure like we do in Kubicorn, but still, it's like one command line tool, and you can get Kubernetes up and running anywhere. GKE, EKS, AWS, AKS, even Minikube, even OKE. And this is just like gonna get you a vanilla Kubernetes out of the box. So let's do GKE. So JX create cluster, GKE -help. Let's see, create a new Kubernetes cluster on GKE using Terraform, runs on Google Cloud, and then you can see we have all of these really lovely command line options here. But let's just copy this one out of the docs. So we have a question in chat. Does it support all the clouds? There's a lot of clouds out there. I think it supports the main ones. Like it supports what are commonly referred to as the big three, which is Google, Microsoft, Amazon. Although there's Alibaba Cloud, and then there's a bunch of smaller clouds as well. And even in general, just like different ways to provision infrastructure. All right, let's grab this command. Sorry, gummy bear moment. Okay, so let's actually start this over. Okay, so my cluster name, let's call this TGIK cluster. And let's see here, default admin password equals my secret password 123. We're just gonna call this Charlie. Skip login, create cluster, bam. Okay, cool. So here we can create our Google Cloud project. So I'm logged in right now in my Google Chrome under my Heptio account. So these are all of our Heptio projects that we use. Our SRI team was nice enough to set me up with my very own private project. So I have Heptio advocacy. Let's ensure we have a container and compute enabled in your project. So let's go here. Tim Davis says, I'm ashamed to say this is my first time on TGIK. Go, Kris. Tim, I think it was you. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was you who said you were going to grab a beer earlier. So Joe was nice. Where's my camera? Joe was nice enough to bring me a Bud Light for today. So cheers to you, Tim, and thanks for joining TGIK. Welcome. We hope to see more of you. Okay, cool. So let's pick a region here. So let's do... Okay, actually, I want to call something out here. There's North America. Let's go back up to the top. And I can just start typing North America, so North, and you can see that we get this here. Whatever Go library is using this selector, like whatever the selector is, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this thing for so long. So Jenkins X in general, like I said, was like a very, very gorgeous code base, and I think the tool itself like just feels and looks really clean, and that puts a lot of trust into the tool for me anyway. So let's do Northeast 1A and run this. Tim Davis says, it was me, cheers. Cool. Well, I hope you also have like a Bud Light or another like really low quality beer. Okay, so let's do N1 standard 2, so that's not super huge, so that looks good. Minimum number of nodes 3, that looks good. Max 5, would you like to use preemptible VMs? Sure, why not? Yes. Would you like to access Google Cloud Storage and Google Container Registry? Sure, why not? And creating cluster. So let's go here. I think this will be my third cluster, which I'll shut them down, don't worry. So it's cloud.google.com. Click on the console here. Make sure we are in, yeah, I'm in Heptio advocacy, which is good. And then let's go over here on the left. And if we go to Kubernetes engine, we should see. Great. Okay, so this is one I created the other day. This is one I created earlier when I was test driving all this, and this is the one we're creating now. So we're actually able to see that Jenkins X is bringing up a Kubernetes cluster for us. Saruba says, feels good to hear since we plan on building clusters in big 3 clouds. This seems perfect bet. Yeah, Jenkins X, it does, like that should be the new catchphrase, like Jenkins X, it does it all. But like literally, it's like a tool that just bundles up all of these other commonly used steps in Kubernetes and just automates it and makes it really easy for folks to use. So cool. A big part of today's episode is going to be waiting for things in the cloud to happen because the whole point of the tool is to automate all this stuff. So if anybody has any questions or has anything they want to see, now is a good time to ask a question or make a suggestion of something we want to check out as we keep going with Jenkins X. So Ashish says, PR idea if anybody wants to start, support regional GKE clusters. Nice. Ashish, always good to hear from you. So GKE, what version of Kubernetes is this thing running anyway? 1.10.11 GKE. Which, if you think about it, is interesting considering that we're now on 1.13, moving on to 1.14. So this is, in Kubernetes terms, a relatively older version of Kubernetes. Mohammed, or I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Mahmoud says, how does auth work? Okay, so that's a good question. So I've already authed with Jenkins X and with gcloud. And how you do that is, let's open up a new tab. You would do Google, gcloud, what is it? I think it's auth login. Let's see. Let's just try this. Let me quit. Gcloud auth login. Yep, this is it. So then, and you didn't see this because it opened up in my other Chrome, you would get choose an account. I clicked Nova at Heptio. I say, this all looks good. These permissions are acceptable. And then we go back to our terminal and it says, okay, you're now logged in. And you can do gcloud config set project ID. And I just set that to Heptio advocacy. And you could set that to whatever project you're working on. So let's see, people have questions. How do you authenticate to GKE? We just looked at that. How about Helm deployments? So yeah, Jenkins X 100% uses Helm. In fact, let's just look at the code base while we're waiting for this cluster to set up. So if we go here, we can see we go into package. So most of the code for Jenkins X lives here in package, and there is a ton of code here, and it's all really pretty code too. Like if you come in and you actually look at jx/command, you can see here are all the Go files for all of the different commands and subcommands that we just looked at when we did our JX help. So we did create cluster, so we should be able to come down here and find create cluster, and then we did create cluster GKE. And you can see, like, one of the things I always check for whenever folks use Cobra commands, which is what we're using here, is this an exported function or not? So I really am a big fan of exporting these like basic entry points for your code base, because that means we can now write end-to-end tests in other packages that will actually go and test this and maybe call like delete when we're done afterwards. So it just makes testing a lot easier. You'll see like in the Docker code base, for instance, these are all unexported functions, and it makes vendoring that library super hard, because now if I want to create a new command, create cluster in GKE, all I have to do is figure out how to build the input parameters here, and then I can programmatically call create new cluster, so I'm able to vendor this code and actually create a Kubernetes cluster for whatever reason I would possibly want to. So that was exciting when I first saw that. And then just in general, it follows all of the idiomatic Go documentation rules of the first word needs to be the name of the function, and then you need to say exactly what it does, and then more importantly, when you would use it. And so this is an interesting part of Go. This is actually part of the Go spec, that you should write your comment blocks this way. And they follow the rules, and that also makes me really happy. Okay, but in regard to Helm, if you come back up here, you can look and you can see there's a Helm library, which again, if you want to vendor Helm, we now have a Helm library thanks to Jenkins X. So you can come in here and you can see there's helm.go, and you can see we have like a couple of things defined for like Helm versions, and then we have Helm CLI. And you can see we like create a new Helm CLI, and then we can do like with a runner, and like it does a new Helm binary, and it actually is going to use Go to like run, like vendor out in shell exec Helm for us, which is cool. So yeah, just in general, like if you're looking for a library around Kubernetes, this might be a good place for you just to come and start looking. There's probably already some work done here. Okay, so let's see where people are in chat. Okay, no more questions. Let's see what's going on with our create cluster here. Okay, awesome, we have some output here. Okay, so it says initializing cluster. Let me get some Diet Coke while we're reading this. Namespace JX created. So all of the JX related Kubernetes things are going to run in the JX namespace, which is cool because that way we know like everything else in Kubernetes is not managed by Jenkins X. Okay, using Helm binary Helm. So yeah, we're vendoring out to Helm here. It's setting context. It's storing some configuration for us. Our kube provider is GKE, the zone, the Heptio advocacy project that we're using, and the name of our cluster. So this is probably written locally so that like other parts of the program like have these input parameters as needed. Storing the Kubernetes provider, using Kris Nova and my email, kris@nivenly.com. Okay, so this is using, I don't know where I got kris@nivenly.com because I authenticated with Knova, but either way, we have access to both, so it's totally cool. And then it creates like a tiller service for us. It like initializes kube system and like does some other Kubernetes provisioning stuff for us. Oh, Giant said reposting my original question. Can you please comment on how Jenkins X compares to Spinnaker and Argo CD? Giant, I can't yet, but I was going to do Spinnaker this week. Maybe I can make like a 3-part series like I did with Ci, where I look at all 3 of the CD tools, or maybe even the Knative build pipeline that we looked at earlier as well. And we can do like a big compare and contrast like we did with CNI providers earlier. Well, it was last year because it's January now. Okay, let's see what's going on. We have another question here. No existing ingress controller found in the kube system namespace. Shall we install one? Yes. So you have to install an ingress controller manually if you want to use Kubernetes ingress, which is different than like some of the other Kubernetes primitives, but that's just the way ingress is, so that's what we have to do. Okay, so it says installing using Helm binary. One thing I would like to see here is like maybe an ability to pick an ingress controller. Like, could we like pick like the 3 or 4 most commonly used ones and like have a menu there? I'm sure they're working on that because they've built everything else into this tool. Tim says, would love to get your take on Spinnaker and Jenkins for sure. Yeah, I think we can totally do a series here. Okay, Giant says, thanks. Okay, so it says installing using Helm binary, Helm. So I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see what ingress controller we're using. Let's open up another terminal here. Oh, what happened? Okay, I'm gonna see what it says here. I wanna see what ingress controller we got. Okay, Nginx ingress controller. Okay, I know for a fact there's an Nginx ingress controller Helm chart, so maybe they're just using that. Note, the load balancer will fail if you have insufficient quotas. This could happen. And then it says you can run this command to see if you have quotas or not. Okay, so it's waiting on some things. Oh, and you can input a specific domain. So if you want to run like, myapp.mycompany.com or something, you could totally set that up. We're going to use nip.io, which allows us to use the IP address, and it'll automatically build a DNS name for us. So that's really convenient. Let's set up a get username and an API token. Do you wish to use Kris Nova? This is where Kris at invalidity.com came from, is they probably pulled my git config. Cool. So yeah, we'll use my GitHub user. Do you wish to use GitHub as the pipeline's Git server? Yes. Do you wish to use Kris Nova as the pipeline's Git user? Yes. Okay, looks like that went through fine. A local Jenkins and X cloud environments repo already exists. Recreate the latest. Yes. So this is probably from when I came through earlier and did this. And we want to do a static master Jenkins or a serverless Jenkins, which I think we want to do static master. Serverless scares me, I'm not going to lie. Well, it doesn't scare me. I just, I like being able to feel like I can access the system if needed. There's just a bit of separation from serverless usually. Just makes me feel more comfortable for demos. Nothing wrong with serverless, other than it has a bad name. Okay, Kubernetes workloads, automated Ci Icd with GitOps promotion. Library workloads, we'll do Kubernetes workloads because we're doing TGI Kates. Okay, so it's adding some files and some configuration to usersnova.jx. So yeah, it looks like it is actually writing stuff to my local system. So you see that a lot with these automation tools where they'll come in and they'll be like, okay, we want to make your life easier, but we're going to do that at the cost of making a bunch of assumptions and possibly some sane or insane defaults for you. And we're going to write all your stuff to one of your .file directories, and we can save that and use that as needed, which is cool if you're into that sort of thing, which, I mean, the whole point of this tool is for people who are into that sort of thing, but also a bit invasive if you're like, whoa, you didn't even ask me, and you're writing files to my system. That's kind of scary. Okay, so Ashish says, seemed like this is very interactive. Curious how the automated CI is implemented. Watching on. Let's see here how the automated CI is implemented. So we're actually going to set that up here in a second. So stay tuned, Ashish. And also I really like when folks interact on TGIK. So if you feel like you want to say hi and you've never said hi before, you should totally say hi. I promise I'm really nice. Okay, so we're still waiting for this to get ready. I guess it's time for a beer. Let's actually pull up the docs here. Okay, so we don't want to do the quick start. We already did our cluster. We want to do the Spring Boot docs, that one. And then we can close Cloud Shell, close that, close that, close that. If this is the first time, it will take a while to download images, which for this cluster, it's the first time. But in general, we've done this before and it didn't take too terribly long, but it looks like all we're doing is we're just deploying this chart now using these values that we just wrote to your home directory. So I think there was let's do this really quick. Getting started, open link in new tab. Nope, that didn't work. We'll just copy this over. I think there's a way where you can pull the logs as it's doing everything. Let's see if we can find that. Getting started. What happens during installation? Let's see. It'll install Tiller. Okay, so this is everything that like we've been watching it do. It looks like it kind of walks you through everything and explains what all the menus are. But I thought there was a command. Let's see if we can just find it. It was like build logs or something. JX build logs. Let's see, JX. Is there a build? Nope, I don't see it. Okay, well, we can just keep watching these logs while we're waiting for Jenkins to get set up. So, like, cool, because it makes our life way easier, but also, like, it makes our life way easier, and we're just kind of sitting here like, all right, waiting for it to get set up. Let's see if there's anything exciting we can find in here that looks like fun to play with today. Ooh, create custom builder. What is this? So you need a builder image. First, you need to create a Docker image for your builder. Oh, cool. Okay, so this is like similar to the invocation image that we saw with CNAB last month, I want to say. You can create a custom builder Docker container, and then it looks like as part of your Jenkins build, which is what we're doing right now, you're able to like define like some configuration about it and actually go and like take some sort of action and do arbitrary things. Like this might be cool if you need to like shoot an email off to the IT department or like flip a bit in some system that says we're bringing up a new Kubernetes cluster and you need to start tracking the cost or something. Sean Smith says, waiting for stuff to spin up is always the hardest. Yeah, but I have like Diet Coke, Bud Light, gummy bears, and like, I don't know, I keep like little gophers and stuff here on the desk to keep me company during TGIK, so I'm good. Any questions so far? I wonder if we can make a custom builder really quick. That would be cool. Use the builder. Now that your builder was installed in Jenkins, you can easily reference it in a Jenkins file. Oh, and this is that, I think it's Groovy, I want to say is like the JVM abstraction language going on here. I never really understood it, but I just know that it's supposed to be like super simple and cut and dry and like gets rid of all the semicolons and just makes things a little bit easier. But it looks like we were just defining a Jenkins pipeline, which for folks who don't know what a Jenkins pipeline is, it's a set of arbitrary steps. So you know that there could be like 3 or 4 steps, and you sort of define each of those steps here. Like here's one called agent, here's one called stages, and as you look at Jenkins, it's like, you know, step 3 of 5 complete, step 4 of 5 complete, like whatever, and that's like your pipeline. Tim Davis says, what is the superior color of gummy bear? I don't know. I like them all. I'm like talking with my mouth full. Benjamin says red. I like all the gummy bears. I don't look at colors. Like, I just kind of eat them, and they're good. Okay, rad. Okay, so we're finally here. Your new admin password is Charlie. Configure Jenkins API token. Here's my public IP address. Please, like, if you log into my Jenkins server, I'm going to have to change the password. Don't make me do that. Logged into admin of the Jenkins server, and now we want to select a GitHub organization where you want to create the environments repo. So let's see what folks are saying. Does it support plugins that Jenkins support for CI like Blue Ocean? Yeah, we get a Jenkins installation that we're going to get to here in a second, Sarud. So anything you can do to Jenkins, you can do with Jenkins X. Okay, so here's where everybody gets to see how big of a nerd I really am and look at like the 32 GitHub organizations I'm a member of. Barbecue Gophers, it's literally exactly what you think it is. Fakelet, that was like some precursor to the virtual kubelet, FreeBSD Docker, Heptio. Let's do Kris Nova. Let's do me. Okay, so using the Git provider, about to create repository, environment TGIK cluster staging. Okay, so let's actually go and look at this. Oh my god, it's doing a bunch of stuff. GitHub.com/Kris Nova/this. Poof, so it created a repository for us. So all this waiting was actually like, it was actually doing stuff behind the scenes. So we have environment TGIK cluster staging, and here's the Jenkins file that if you wanted to come through and modify with the custom builder stuff, you could just open up a PR to this repo that it just created for you. Let's see, George, I have a feeling he's leaving. All right, everyone, this is George. I need to end off the week. Please feel free to continue to add things to the notes. Have a good weekend. This seems very invasive. No, yes, Ashish, I do think it seems very invasive, but I kind of mentioned that earlier. Benjamin Nail says, I was wondering if Jenkins was going to move away from the Groovy for pipeline building. I don't know. I have no idea what Jenkins is doing. Most of the code here in the Jenkins X repository doesn't really have anything to do with Jenkins. It's like vendoring Helm and like doing Kubernetes shortcuts and deploying GKE and creating Spring Boot apps and stuff like that. Sean says, have a good weekend, George. Yeah, George, have a good weekend. Thanks for all your help. It was good seeing you before the show. We like to have like our pre 10 or 15 minute hangout time where like George and I check in every week and see how each other are doing and get to have a little bit of like advocacy / community therapy before TGIK. It's always really nice to see George. So thanks for all your help this week, George. Okay, let's see what's going on in the terminal. Probably more invasive stuff. Okay, create a Jenkins project. Here, I wonder if we can actually go to this and what this looks like. So again, using this nip.io. Okay, cool, admin and our super secret. Sign in here. Okay, cool, yeah. And so here is our new Jenkins dashboard here. So important, once you create a password for your Jenkins, and remember earlier we did like single static Jenkins, this will be the same Jenkins server for all of your JX tools. So if we actually built more than one app, we would be able to go and see all that here. And this would be like our big master, like Jenkins server source of truth. Okay, cool. Creating Git webhook for Kris Nova environment TGIK cluster staging for URL blah. We'll talk about these Git webhooks in a second whenever we create an app. But I actually wrote my first GitHub Web Hook the other day, and oh my gosh, I'm in love. I'm going to build so many GitHub apps now. The webhook stuff is so really, really cool. Okay, using the Git provider, created the repository, creating production environment, okay, so we got a TGIK cluster production, and we also got a TGIK cluster staging. Okay, so these are our two different pipelines. Remember earlier we talked about environments, and you could have one staging environment and one prod. We get a different repo to manage each of those two environments, and Jenkins X created that for us automatically. Okay, so then it created this Jenkins project, which is the production Jenkins server. Oh, so by default it gives, oh, that's kind of, you don't want that. But by default, it's going to give us the same password for each one, which like staging and prod should have different passwords. Okay, creating another Git hook, Git webhook. Okay, your Kubernetes context is now set to the namespace JX. Is it set to JX? Is the namespace set to JX, or is the context set to the cluster that JX is using? I don't know if this is correct or not, but we're about to find out. To switch back to your original namespace, use JX namespace default. And for help switching contexts, see this link. To import existing projects into Jenkins, you can do JX import. So this is like, hi, me and my team, we have this program that we've been writing. Maybe it's an old legacy program, and we want to start managing that with Jenkins X and running this in Kubernetes. This is the subcommand for you. And if folks want to see it, I can like try to get Kubecorn or something running as a one of these existing projects, and we can try to get it up and running with the JX pipeline. Okay, cool. To create a new Spring Boot microservice, we do this thing here. But before we do that, let's actually look at the Spring subcommand and see what all the args are. Oh, and I can hear friends. Let's see who's out there. It's Amy Chen, just walked by. Hi, Amy. Okay, JX create Spring, -d, -web, -d actuator. What is -d? Dep. Okay, so as you're looking at building a Spring project, so I guess really quick, if you're not familiar with Spring, it is a way of defining commonly used patterns for building a Java project. It's been around for a minute. There's like a whole org around it. You can join, you can get involved, and it's basically like the standards for creating specific types of Java programs. And the way it does that is by using these things called dependencies, and there's commonly used ones that do different things. Here we're creating a Spring Boot app with the two commonly used dependencies, web and actuator. The web component here is just going to give us like a simple HTTP server, which we can look at the source code and maybe mutate that and like cut a new release of our application. To pick advanced options, such as what package type Maven project Gradle project uses, use JX create Spring. Okay, so in general, like We're working in Kubernetes, we're building containers. A lot of folks are writing Go. Why are we looking at building a Spring project right now? I don't remember where, but I think in the GitHub repo, you can actually see the Jenkins X folks said they want to support multiple apps. They just started with Spring Boot because it's one of the most commonly used ones. So that might be here in JX. Sarub says, I hope it wrote kubeconfig to .kube. I'm 99% sure it did, Sarub, because if we come here, open up a new tab, zoom in, we can do we'll do my kdump alias, which is kubectl get all. Yep, and you can see that like this has been up for 13 minutes, and it's something running in the JX namespace. So, and then I bet if we do ktx, do I have that installed? No. Can I do brew install kubectx? So I have an alias ktx to kubectx, which kubectx in the alias ktx is what I use to switch my Kubernetes context around. So we'll download that really quick and see if we can't figure out what our context is. Another way would be to cat out the kubeconfig, but I don't want to show you all production value secrets because I've actually got like one of my partners' Kubernetes cluster in there, and I think the Heptio production cluster. So definitely don't want to share those. Okay. So here are the Spring Boot options, and you can come through and you can do all kinds of crazy configuration. You can pass in Jenkins creds, you can tell it which Git API token to use to create new Git repositories. You can really start to build out these like full commands that do exactly what you want as an operator working on this pipeline. So this is really handy. So just to get started for the demo, we're going to create Sarub, I think I'm saying that right. Sarub says cool. Or CO. Okay, let's see if we can find that snippet on Spring. Okay, if anybody can find in the docs where they talk about how they want to add different types of applications, that would be helpful. But I remember reading it at some point while I was going through all of this. Okay, so let's run our JX create Spring. And this is where things get really exciting. So one of the things that like I first noticed about Jenkins X was like we only ran one command to get to this point, to get our Kubernetes cluster up and running, and to get all of the Jenkins X components in Jenkins server up and running. And that was because like you just ran this one command and then it prompted you for everything that it needed. So even though we've only ran one command, we've actually done a lot of work, and we're going to go through another one of these pretty complicated commands again. Okay, JX create Spring -d web -d actuator. Okay, would you like to use Kris Nova as the Git username? Yes. Which organization? COPS, Kubernetes, Incubator, Maintainers, Nivenly. We'll keep it in Kris Nova. Enter the new repository name. Let's call it, I kind of want to do something in Icelandic. Let's see if I can do the name of one of my stuffed animals in Icelandic. So, Hamin, yay. And then I have my Icelandic keyboard here. Nope. Okay. No, we'll just do TGIK. Sorry. Go back to my American keyboard. Okay. TGIK example 2. Okay, cool. So create repository. Oh, I think this is the section of the docs where it talks about the different types of languages where they say that they want to add more as well. So if anybody's looking for it, this is a clue. If you can find where the docs talk about this, you're going to be getting close. Okay, we'll do Java for right now. The group will do com.vmware. Let's not get crazy. Created Spring Boot projects are in users Nova, my home directory, TGIK example 2. The directory is not using Git. Would you like to initialize Git now? Yes, so this is going to run like a Git init, maybe --bear, unsure. Commit message, initial import. Yep, that works good for me. So a lot of reasonable same defaults here, which is exciting. So Git repository created, selected pack. Okay, so draft pack, github.com, Jenkins X build packs. So a lot of these build packs, like we see this in draft, we see this in a handful of other tools where we like define what one of these projects sort of looks like. And this is like Spring is the perfect example for this because Spring is commonly well known and so much of Spring is bundled up into like where does your Maven folder or where does your Maven file go and like what does your folder structure look like and like what files do you need and what do they need to specify. That's all defined in the standard. Okay, cool. Let's see what else it did. Created Jenkins project. So this is now our first app using our new Jenkins server we just created. This folder is empty. So we have a new TGIK example 2 Jenkins job defined here. Let's go back to our terminal. So we can do JX get activity. So let's run this. I think this is just like going to show us what Jenkins is doing behind the scenes, like tailing the console logs. We can do JS console. Let's try that and see what happens here. Okay, so yeah, this is just going to pull up the console, and it's, yeah, this is one of the questions asked earlier. Does it have the blue plugin? And sure enough, it sure does. So that's cool. So yeah, like as you're doing this, a lot of these subcommands are baked in here. So if there's something that you as an operator would be like, oh, it would be really cool to go and get this piece of information at this time, I bet there's a good chance they've already thought about it, and you can just get it all from the command line here. By the way, all languages, Java, Kotlin, and Groovy, they support are JVM based. Yep, another really important thing to call out here. I'm really kind of bummed they don't have Scala, because Scala is like probably my favorite JVM language to write. But yeah, these are all running in the Java virtual machine. Okay, cool. So it created a webhook for Kris Nova TGIK example 2 for this URL. Okay, let's talk about GitHub Web Hooks for a second, because these things are actually really cool. So let's go to github.com/Kris Nova / what did I say? TGIK example, if I could type, 2. And we can go to settings and go to webhooks, and you can see we actually have this webhook defined for all events. So the way GitHub webhooks work is, let's go to my settings. If you come here to developer settings in your GitHub, you can do GitHub app. This is the one I'm working on with Holden. You can do new GitHub app, enter your password, and then you can say, scroll down, permissions, and you can do subscribe to events. So this is where webhooks come in handy. So we can actually subscribe to things like watch user stars in a repository, or the repository is created, deleted, archived, or something else. And we can actually come through and we can say like, I want pull requests. I wanted to subscribe read-only to pull requests. And what GitHub will do is if you have a GitHub webhook defined, it'll actually send a post request to that webhook that you can interact with. So like to build a webhook, all I had to do was write a for loop that was running and serving an HTTP server, and every time we got a post request, I just parse the request and takes any action I want. Any programming language can do this, and you can like build really cool things on top of GitHub and subscribe to user events. So webhooks are really exciting. So Jenkins X is using webhooks so that we can start to like trigger things in Jenkins, like building containers, for instance. Okay, so let's go back to my terminal. And let's actually go and let's open up this directory. Okay, there we go. I want to see, where did we create the actual program? Okay, it's here. So let's go to my home directory, TGIK example 2, and let's tree this out and see what we got here. Oh my god, I don't have tree. So this is a new laptop. Reinstall tree. And do we have KTX yet? Yeah, so you can see it did actually set our cube context. That was in reference to earlier. Okay, so now we have tree. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, so we have a Docker file. We have a Jenkins file, owners. It created a Helm chart. So I did a whole episode on Helm, so if you want to see how Helm charts work, you can go and see that. But these basically define Kubernetes level manifest configuration, and then you can overload a lot of those with this thing here called values.yaml. We have some Maven definitions, good old pom.xml, scaffold.yaml, and then here is our infamous source main Java com, VMware, TGIK example 2, demo application, Java. We finally get down to our actual Java class here. And then here's our test as well. And then we have watch.sh, which, what the heck is that thing? Okay, it just does a scaffold run. Got it. Okay, so this is our example repository. So if we go up, I bet we can actually find, here's the Jenkins console. I want to find where the actual app is running. I think it's this thing. Created Jenkins project. Let's see what this does. Branch is indexing. Okay, so Jenkins is doing stuff behind the scenes for us. But basically, at some point, we're going to be able to get this Java project we just created actually running on the public internet somewhere, as opposed to the private internet, right? Let's go back to our docs and see what it says. Create Spring Boot app. Push your code to the remote Git service, adds files, registers a webhook. We looked at that. And add the Git repository to your team Jenkins and trigger the first pipeline. So let's go through and let's actually do like a promotion now and see if we can't promote this thing to production. So developing, promote. Okay, so let's do this JX promote and see if this will spit out a production endpoint for us. Let's do that. Okay, environment production version will be good. We'll actually do this the right way. 0.0.1. App. Actually, you know what? I don't know what this is, so let's do this. Go here. I bet there's like a Git apps or something. JX. Is there JX Git? Oh my gosh, look at all the things you can get. Applications. So JX Git applications. No applications found in environment staging and production. Interesting. I thought we just added one though. Let's see what JX Git pipeline does. So yeah, there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot to learn with this command line tool. Okay, so here is our production cluster master. Here's TGI K2, example 2, and here's the link to the Jenkins job. And I think that job is just still building, which if we go here, yeah, you can see it's still hanging. Okay, so I'm wondering if this Jenkins job gets done, if we're going to be able to promote it then. And I think I remember reading that it's going to take like quite a while because we have to download images. So any questions so far before we try to get this thing up on the internet? And I think that'll probably be enough for the episode. If folks want to see anything else, just drop it in chat. I'm happy to poke around at some other things. Let's see if we can't find create Spring Boot. One of my mountain climbing friends keeps texting me. He's like, what's going on? Are you climbing this weekend? And I'm like, live on the air right now. It's pretty funny. Okay, so we already looked at this. Oh, this is interesting. We highly recommend that you always use the actuator dependency because it helps your Spring Boot applications because it provides liveliness and readiness probes for Kubernetes. Let's see, Newbie Cyber. Does it have a built-in vault like HashiCorp Vault? Yes, it does. So if you look at our JX create help command, you can see we can actually create vault using the vault operator. So this is actually kind of cool because almost everything I've done in TGIK is like abstracted into this one command line tool. So this is kind of exciting to just like have one giant tool to manage your entire ecosystem here. In a weird way, this is almost like having a distribution of Kubernetes. Like this is very similar to like the first versions of Linux that came with a bunch of tools built on top of it that have like one command line tool to manage and monitor and interact with your entire Linux distro. So it's pretty cool. And that's why like I was like, Jenkins X doesn't necessarily just mean Jenkins. It can do a lot of things. Good question though. Let's see what's going on with our build logs. Oh, a nil pointer. Wait, no, is it a nil pointer dereference? Or what is it called in Java? Failed to prepare clean WS step. Okay, so we got our first Java error in Jenkins. So I guess maybe it is Jenkins tightly coupled as we thought. Okay, so finished failure. So let's see. Let's go back to TGIK2, and it failed. I have no idea why this thing failed. Let's try to like get our applications now and see if like it even registered it. So JX get applications. No applications found. So what else can we do? JX display one or more resources, get environments. Let's try our JX promote command and just see what happens. We're running out of time here. So developing, Kubernetes context, create quick start. Where's promote? There it is, promote. Okay, so let's just try to do TGIK example 2 with hyphens and see what this thing says. Okay, so in production, change this to 0.0.1. And app name, we'll just try this and see what happens. TGIK example 2. Promoting app. Okay, so that worked. Pipeline, TGIK example 2 master. Sarub says, so to deploy a full stack app with Node.js as front end and back end as Java, you got to wait for a tool to mature. Yeah, or the other option would be, I'm assuming they're accepting pull requests, so maybe that would be a contribution you and your team can make. So let's see what's going on with our promotion here. Do you wish to use Kris Nova? Yes. Created PR. Okay, cool. So we actually created a pull request to the environment TGIK cluster production. So this is the repo that isn't for our app. It's the Jenkins production repo that manages our production Jenkins. And it says failed to query the pull request last commit status. Could not find a status for repository Kris Nova environment TGIK production. I think I remember doing this earlier, and it failed 6 or 7 times and eventually went through. So we're just waiting for things to kind of happen behind the scenes. This is that whole eventual consistency thing that we are seeing so much in cloud native these days. So while we're waiting for this, any questions so far? Anything else anybody wants to see? I want to see if there's just anything that jumps off the page at me. So under demos, you can come through and you can see there's a KubeCon demo. Looks like this is create cluster with one with GKE. DevOps is a really big conference in the UK. I'm going to try to get in this year. That's related to Java and Java applications in the JVM. So that's really exciting. Did I miss anything here? Let's see. I'm just trying to go through these last minute things as we're waiting for our promotion. Here's a GitHub issue. If you need to find your Jenkins password after you've set something up with Jenkins X, this second response here tells you to just check this auth file that's in the JX directory. I needed this earlier, so I put that there if folks needed it. Here's the KubeCon demo. So this is from KubeCon Seattle, so you can come through and you can see easy Ci Icd for Kubernetes, and then everything else we already looked at. So let's see what's going on in our terminal here. Still failed to query. Let's try this and see what happens. Could not find a status. Here, do I just merge this? Ah, yes, okay. So we had to do a manual merge. That makes sense. Okay, so normally that would have been okay, I opened up a PR, people have to come and look at it. They say, okay, it's okay for you to promote your app. And then the pull request goes through, and you can see that it's now merged. Okay, so yeah, a little bit of feedback. That might have been a little bit, that might be an opportunity for a really helpful message to just please go check your PR and merge it. Here's a link for it. Anyway, merged commit has not yet have any statuses. Did you look into scaling up and down to 0 build servers? Christoph, we have not looked at that yet. Let's see if we can find any sort of subcommands that look like that. JX, start, stop, get environments. I think that's where the environments would come in. I think that's where you would you can define the amount of servers in each environment, and those servers equate to pods in Kubernetes. So if we actually just do we'll do KX, we'll do alias, KX is equal to kubectl, namespace JX, KX get PO. You can see we have a lot of controllers. We have everything that we need to get Jenkins up and running. And I think we can scale this out using Kubernetes, which is pretty exciting. But yeah, let's see if we can find a subcommand that would do that for us. Namespace, create git server, import, install, upgrade, create Jenkins token, init. Status. I'm not seeing anything off the cuff here. If anybody can find anything in the docs, let us know. That's a really good question. Merge commit has not yet any statuses on repo. let's let this thing hang and see what happens. Which is kind of sad, because this thing totally worked out of the box earlier when I was doing it. And let's see if we can just get github.com. I want to see if we can just get the Java app to resolve for us yet. Last time it said your app is running here and just spit out a URL, and it just magically worked. So here's our webhook. Here's Jenkins console. Jenkins project, Git repository. Merge commit doesn't have any statuses. I wonder what that thing even means. 31 commits. We've already had 31 commits. Committed 8 days ago. Oh, I bet we just forked a repo or something, and this is like the default repo. That makes sense. Okay, so I don't know what this doesn't have any statuses means. So we'll do a little bit of looking, and then if not, we'll just call it a day and we'll get out of here. We tried that. Let's create quick start. Can we do this really quick? Let's try to create a quick start and see what happens. So we'll do it in a new tab. We'll do this tab here since it's already zoomed in. Okay, JX create quick start -L go. We'll go fast through this. Yes, use that GitHub name. Yes, we'll use Kris Nova. TGIK example 3. Creating repo. Would you like to initialize Git? That's a good commit message. We're using a draft pack. It detected Go. So hopefully this will create a Go app for us. That's exciting. Okay, cool. So push to Git repository, created Git pipeline. Creating Git webhook for this, listening here. Note that your first pipeline might take a few minutes while the necessary images get downloaded. I wonder if that's what's going on here. Is it's just taking forever for this pipeline to kind of work itself out. Let's see, TGIK2. Yeah, no, that thing's still failing. But we still have so much stuff running. Still sleeping now, only 6 minutes remaining. Okay, unsure what this Jenkins is doing. Maybe we're going over quota or something. I'm not a Jenkins expert. I'm not sure I want to be a Jenkins expert. All right. So let's go back here, and let's actually go and check out this Git repository we just created. TGIK example 3. And let's clear that, and let's tree it out and see what we got here. Oh, cool. Okay, so yeah, we have like a main.go, which is exciting. Cat main.go. And it just says Jenkins X Golang HTTP example. Okay, I really want to get this thing running. I want this thing to like get deployed. Let's see what's going on in Jenkins. Because then we are like able to create a Go app really quick. It's going to be a bummer if I can't get it. Console output. Kris Nova. Environment TGIK cluster prod. TGIK example 2. Hey, this one has a happy sun. That's good, right? Okay, TGIK2. This folder is empty. No, we don't have anything yet. All right, let's try to do a promotion on this one and see what happens. Maybe this one will just magically work. Promote. TGIK example 3 in production. Kris Nova TGIK example 3 master do not found. Interesting. Okay, I think it's just a case of we just need to wait and let Jenkins do the things it needs to do in order for these things to come through. So yeah, looks like you can use Jenkins X. You can create a Go project. You use the quick start. It looks like there was a lot of different programming languages you could use for the quick start. You can create a Spring Boot app. You can create Terraform plans. You can create all kinds of stuff. And it like runs everything in Jenkins for you and has all these build pipelines kind of defined that should help you get your app up and running and manage your environments along the way. So yeah, let's zoom out, see if folks have any last minute questions, and if not, we can split. And then if I get this up and running later, I can add a quick note to the README file that says what was the magic command, or if I just waited like 30 minutes and came back, and if it was able to actually get up and running. Because yeah, I did get this thing earlier today, but that was over the course of about 4 hours. So unsure if eventual consistency is getting us right now. Okay, well, it's been a good week. It's been about an hour and 25 minutes, so I'm gonna sign off. Thanks for joining, everyone. Here, I'll do like one last minute Friday beer. Not quite as good as Bud Light Lime, but close. So yeah, thanks for joining. It's always great. And again, if you join TGIK and you're not participating in the chat, don't be shy. We love to hear from you. It makes my job easier, and it's a good opportunity for you to ask a quick question and actually see it while I have everything up and running here with like basically unlimited cloud resources behind the scenes. Sean says, have a good weekend. Thanks for hanging out, Sean. It's been good to see you. Yeah, I'll keep everyone posted, and we'll merge this README into the repo here as soon as we wrap up, probably the beginning of next week or something. And yeah, like I said earlier, I think Duffy or Joe next week. The week after that, it might be me. I think the 2 weeks after that, I'm going to be out. So stay tuned. And if you have any ideas, drop them in the GitHub issue tracker. Okay, Newbie Cyber says, thanks. But John Che says, cheers. I'm going to try to say it right. Mom Moed says, thank you, Kris Nova. Oh, sorry. Roy says, thank you, Kris. Have a good weekend. Honestly, thanks for joining, everyone. It's always a lot of fun for me. It makes my life way better if we can get interaction from folks. So thanks, and thanks for checking out Jenkins X, and I think Spinnaker coming soon. And maybe on the Spinnaker episode, we can look at what needed to happen here, and we can talk about like sort of like the end game and kind of resolve some of this stuff. So that'd be rad as well. Okay, cool. So Roy, thanks, Kris. Have a nice weekend. And thanks again, everyone else. Sarub says, thanks, it was an awesome session. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, I'm out of here. Have a good weekend, everyone.